Now, Sports Talk with Broads. Here's Hunter Brody.
What is going on, everyone? Welcome to Sports Talk with Broads. Today we are going to talk a little bit about Doc Rivers and the Philadelphia 76ers. Before we hop into that, look, we are broadcasting live from the Manscaped Man Cave. Get 20% off and free shipping with the promo code BROD at manscaped.com. I just want to be clear about something before we dive into this conversation. If you've been listening to me for quite some time, you understand that I think an NBA head coach is limited in a role. Now, that doesn't mean a coach has zero impact. That doesn't mean that they don't matter at all. They do have an impact in an NBA locker room. They do have an impact on a game. I just feel that that impact is limited. It's not as high as what the public thinks about an NBA head coach. It's important. They have value. They help set the culture. They help set, the identity of a team, and they can draw up plays and they can set their rotations. I'm not saying that they don't matter whatsoever. Of course, they do have a role on an NBA team. I just think that it comes down to way more on a Paul George actually having a good playoff series, on Kawhi Leonard actually having a good Game 7. The reason why the Clippers blew a 3-1 series lead and they had some double-digit leads where the Nuggets came back, you know why that happened? That's because the players on the court sucked in those moments. Kawhi Leonard had a horrendous Game 7. Paul George was missing for 80% of the playoffs. That's not Doc Rivers' fault. When you look at his record, he's 943 and 681 with 16 playoff runs. Now, he is known to fall. He is known to underachieve. There's been multiple 3-1 series leads that did not go in his favor, where the team came back on him, on that team that he was coaching. So I just find it funny that, Doc Rivers is a powerful name. He's someone that this league looks up to. A lot of players, not just on the court and from a basketball mind, but for what he does for society as well when it comes to everything happening in this country right now. He has a very important voice that people respect. So from that aspect, I think it's great. But I just find it funny that because he's Doc Rivers, the 3-1 series leads, well, that doesn't matter to a lot of people. And it doesn't really matter to me because I blame the players for that happening. I can't get over what I saw out of Paul George all playoff series long. People want to talk about the Lob City Clippers. Come on. To me, that was overblown. The expectations were very high. I don't know. He has an NBA championship. Okay, that's important. 12 years ago. 12! Doug Peterson right now is ready to get ran out of town. He won a Super Bowl 3 years ago, and people are already claiming that doesn't matter. That was too long ago. Yet with someone like Doc Rivers, who is known to underachieve, if you will, people still want him, and they value that championship 12 years ago. And let me just add that championship, one of the most historic, iconic Big Three that the Boston Celtics ever had. Now, once again, let me be clear. I want Doc Rivers. I think that his voice is so respected that Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid, they can utilize that voice. They need that type of voice. When Doc Rivers walks into a room, you listen. He has your attention. There's a couple coaches in this league that they have more of a persona, if you will, than others. Greg Popovich, Eric Spoelstra, right? There's a few guys that when they, just basketball minds in general, I could throw Coach K out there. I'm not a big college basketball head coach, means that they are some lethal weapon, but he does a lot with the USA basketball teams. And when these guys are talking to Coach K, LeBron, KD, all the USA basketball guys, they look at him and, they respect the hell out of him. So I'll throw Coach K in there. There are certain individuals that their voice just carries differently, and I think Doc Rivers is one of those people. So I think it would be tremendous for this locker room to have someone like Doc Rivers in their corner. No matter how many 3-1 series leads he blew, or whatever the case may be. underachieved here, underachieved there. You know why? Because their players underachieved. That's the way I see it. Their players didn't step up. Whatever players were on that current roster that he was coaching, yeah, that's the problem. So I know Ty Lue was being discussed, and I think he had an interview today, actually. D'Antoni is a name that this organization loves and seems to be salivating over. At this point, with these three names, it's easy. It's Doc Rivers to me. And when you look at this roster, I'm just trying to maybe put some ties together. So Rondo was very successful under Doc Rivers. Well, Ben Simmons is a playmaker who can't really shoot the basketball. All right, he just can't shoot the basketball. Rondo can't shoot the basketball, and he was facilitating all over the place, making plays happen, getting open shots and open looks for his teammates, and just being an awesome point guard. Well, can there be a tie between those two players? And if there is, Doc Rivers obviously has had that type of experience before, coaching a player who doesn't shoot a basketball very well, but his IQ is so amazing. The player's intelligence is unbelievable. And he has that vibe, that feel on the basketball court where, hey, I can get my teammates wide open. I can facilitate. I can drive to the rim super hard. I can draw attention when I do go to the rack, and that will allow my teammates to be available. And Doc Rivers had that as well in Rondo. So keep an eye out on that. I talked about the Lob City stuff. DeAndre Jordan, Blake Griffin, big men. Okay, I'm just throwing out there that they are big men in the NBA. Blake Griffin has added such a weird style to his game. It doesn't even look right when he's out by the perimeter, dribbling, taking these three-pointers. He developed and groomed into something else that, is a player who scores points, but it doesn't really relate in winning. I digress, though. There's no real reason to get deep into what Blake Griffin is now. I bring him up because he's a big man. And DeAndre Jordan, big man. And with Joel Embiid, there you go. You have a big man. Now, when D'Antoni was being talked about a couple weeks ago more heavily, there were some rumors about the Sixers having to make some roster moves. They're going to have to do that anyway. And I know Keith Smith tweeted it out from Yahoo Sports, and he joins the Sports Bash on 97.3 ESPN with myself and Mike Gill. And I talked about this a little bit earlier, about a week or so ago, when all the news was popping with D'Antoni. It was worded. The tweet was worded kind of funky that maybe alluded to the Sixers going down the road of trading a Ben Simmons or Joel Embiid, but when he joined us on the Sports Bash, he was pretty open and clear about it being more of an Al Horford or Tobias Harris or Josh Richardson, those type of moves, which makes a lot of sense. But it's interesting because Tobias Harris was successful in LA. He had a great statistical career in LA. When he was there in his limited action in LA under Doc Rivers. And if there's somebody that we really need to step up outside of Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid, it's pretty damn clear to me that that would be Tobias Harris. And I want Tobias here over Al Horford. If I can get rid of Al Horford, that's the way I'm going. And I'm keeping Tobias Harris because naturally at the 4 position, he can play that spot with Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid. Now, I brought that point up on the Sports Bash, and Mike Gill fought back at me a bit and goes, dude, Tobias Harris is grossly overpaid. Was Al Horford utilized properly? Could there be a different coach who comes in and maybe has more of a pick-and-roll game that can help out Al Horford and get him in that pick-and-pop spot right by the elbow from the free throw line where maybe if his role is utilized differently, Al Horford could work better than we anticipate him to work. And I guess that's fair. I can't rule anything off of the table, but just naturally as a player, I think Tobias Harris fits more at the 4 position where you can utilize that role. Even though he's grossly overpaid, he can at least fit that position more naturally. I look at Al Horford now and I go, he's not really the stretch 4, and that's where the nature of the position is now. I don't know. I do know that I want Ben Simmons with the ball in his hands, though. It's that clear, and I hope whoever is hired as the head coach, they go down that road with this team and with this roster, because with the ball in his hands, Ben Simmons just adds another layer. Now, clearly, he needs to shoot the basketball. I am very frustrated that we haven't got more of him shooting the basketball. I'm not getting sucked into any sort of video, any sort of comment, any sort of whatever the case is this offseason because I've been sucked in too many times. I need to see it and legitimately see it. We saw the videos before the bubble. You're going to see it in Orlando. You saw it 2 times, right? Was it 2 times? And that was it? Nonsense. Not buying it. But will someone like Doc Rivers maybe get more out of Ben Simmons and his voice might carry more? Who knows? His voice, Doc Rivers, that is, his voice might carry more to Ben Simmons. Ben Simmons might look at Doc Rivers and respect him more than he respected Brett Brown and the coaching staff here in Philadelphia over the last couple of seasons. I think Doc Rivers, honestly, is a no-brainer, and it's more than just his name. Because I pointed out his flaws. I pointed out that, you know what, he has underachieved. You can look at the 943 and 681 record. You can look at the championship that happened 12 years ago. 12 years ago. That was so damn long ago. So damn long ago. With how big his name is, you would think that he would have more championships under his belt. So it's more to me than just the name. It's more to me than just the production because, you know, while he's had success in this league, it hasn't been overwhelming. You could argue that he has underachieved more than he has overachieved or more than he has done his job. But once again, the way I view it, see that the difference is the way majority of people look at NBA coaching, they look at that and go, wow, Doc Rivers might not be good enough, but they fall in love with his name anyway because it's Doc Rivers. They don't seem to value the negatives that I'm bringing up because, oh, it's Doc Rivers. The disconnect is just all over the place from the individuals who really put a lot of stock into the NBA head coach. But when you look at him and you look at what happened, I can't forget about Paul George. I just can't. And I can't forget about, look, Chris Paul and that team with the Lob City. I just never really bought that. I never bought it from the jump. I never bought that it was the legit championship type team. I never really truly believed that style was NBA championship worthy. He struggled to get out of the first round, second round, right? It's a common theme for Doc Rivers. So I'm informed that he, is some phenomenal coach, which I think he has a limited role, but he does his job with that limited role. But I'm informed by the NBA coach lovers out there that Doc Rivers is a perfect fit, perfect match. Yet if you dive deeper, it wouldn't really support their logic with how much an NBA coach matters to the team being successful or not. I just want to make sure that people understand. I think that they have value. I think that they add to a team or hurt a team. There's just a cap on it. There is. Ty Lue won a championship. Nobody gives him credit for winning a championship because of LeBron. Yet 12 years ago, Doc Rivers wins an NBA title with Kevin Garnett, Rondo, Paul Pierce, and a beautifully assembled squad. Historically phenomenal team. But it wasn't LeBron, so that's justified. I was told, but look, he has a championship, so I don't care about how many leads he blown. Look, he has a championship. Well, then Ty Lue should be on the table as well. Anyone with a championship should be on the table as well. And, that should be valued more than anything else. And it's not the case in this league because you need the superstar skill to win. Stan Van Gundy, I'll never forget his quote. People feel that, and look, I'm attacking the people today because I feel that there are a lot of individuals who disagree with how I assess the coach. And with Stan Van Gundy, he's one of those personalities that's on TV a lot, on the ESPN broadcast. So you hear his voice, you hear him talk about basketball, and you just associate that with him being some dominant head coach. Well, if you believe that, then fine, because he does speak highly of the game, but it's pretty damn easy to do that from a booth if you were an NBA coach at one point. Mark Jackson, another guy. The fascination with these two, because you hear their voices a lot, yet they're just giving you standard, very, very easy basketball talk from a head coach standpoint. You just fall in love with it because you hear it all the time. But Stan Van Gundy said, which is a name that fans kind of discussed early on in the process. Now it seems to be trimmed down to 3 people, so it has stopped. But Stan Van Gundy's name was brought up by fans in this city. And he goes, when it comes to the accountability and the culture, and I've mentioned this a couple times, but it's just so true. It's so true, it's hard to not talk about it. You know what he said? It comes down to your superstars. Your superstars are the one that sets the culture. That's what it is. They set the culture. They set who this team is. They set the identity of the team. It's not the coach. It's the superstars. And then you bring it back to, well, does this 76ers team have the superstars in their right mindset? Do they have the superstars in the right spot in their careers? Sometimes it takes time. And that's where I'm at. And I've been very vocal about it. I just don't think that they're ready yet. I don't know if there's enough time for Joel Embiid to get ready based off of his body breaking down and him joining the sport of basketball so late. And with Ben Simmons, you got years to go. You do. I hate to break it to you. But once he gets there, it's going to be stellar. It's going to be amazing. And I can't wait to sit there with my feet up, hands behind my head, no matter where he is. Because you know what? The Sixers might give up on him at some point. They might feel the need to. I don't trust Joshua Harris or this front office whatsoever. Although he sells tickets, he sells jerseys. So that's one of the reasons why I feel this organization would stay with him, because that's what matters to them most. But if they do, wherever he ends up one of these days, I'll be kicking back, relaxing when he's 28, 29. And I'll be like, damn, this is beautiful. This is poetry. The way that he plays the game is unreal. It's just unreal. Hopefully, it's here, though. The NBA Finals is coming up. I can't wait. What starts on Wednesday? You got Jimmy Butler, Miami Heat. Look, Jimmy Butler, I said that he's not a true star. I didn't think he would be able to carry a team to a title. He's proven me wrong. Although, I don't put him on, he's a star. He's not a superstar. The team just has the mojo. The way I can kind of compare it is the Washington Nationals last season, right? Something just clicked. Something was just right for that team. Yes, they have Max Scherzer. In different sports, NBA superstars matter more than in other sports. Their impact and how they deliver is different on that stage than, say, a baseball player. But the Nationals, they have Max Scherzer and Strasburg, phenomenal season out of him, postseason specifically, and Juan Soto and Anthony Rendon. But that team just clicked. You see the difference from them this season to last season. It was just this nice, really put-together run where they had it. They had it. And with this Heat team, I think without the superstar, they have a star. Without the superstar, they just have something right now that is flowing for them this season. I can't knock it. They're proving me wrong. You have LeBron and Miami Heat matching up. That's going to be fantastic. And I bring that up because you can utilize BetQL's trends, data, analytics to help make you a ton of money during the NBA Finals. Go to BetQL.com and you get 20% off your first payment using code BROADS20. It's a no-brainer, really. The amount of money that you are going to make using their information on where the best way to bet is, it's a no-brainer, really. The amount you spend compared to what you're going to bring in return, it's going to fill your wallet up. Your wallet's going to be fat as hell. By the way, we're also implementing a weekly pick'em pool, football weekly pick'em pool presented by BetQL, giving away weekly prizes. And on top of that, a championship bracelet for the grand prize, courtesy of Rosnov Jewelers. All the information is down below in the description. I also wanted to touch on the whole Elton Brand side of things and this front office. I'm pretty damn clear I don't like this front office. The ownership, really, not so much the front office. The ownership, but they control the front office. It's a mess. It's a mess. Scott O'Neil, the individuals I'm speaking about, just to clarify here, Joshua Harris, David Blitzer, Scott O'Neil, they got to be gone. They got to be gone. They're not going anywhere, but they need to be gone. And I wonder, someone like Doc Rivers, he knows. He's been around. He's intelligent. I wonder if he knows that the Sixers are just full of it right now. They have no help from a leadership standpoint. The ownership's making the decisions that other individuals need to make. Does he look at that and go, I don't want to be involved. I don't want to be with that team? Does he look at the roster and go, I don't want to be with that team? Like, I wonder how Doc Rivers views the 76ers. Now, all the coaches around any sport looks at a team, whether they're struggling or not living up to expectations, and they go, I can fix this, because that's the way coaches feel, right? I can fix that. Oh, I can find a way to make that work. I want to take on that task. So from that standpoint, I would think Doc Rivers would be cool with it. From an ownership standpoint, though, I wonder, after being in LA in a different atmosphere with a different ownership group, would he view this ownership group as, hey, I am staying away from that slop. I don't even want to be involved. How is this ownership viewed around the league is something that is definitely interesting to think about. Also, I mentioned Kawhi and Paul George, and this just defends my whole players run the world conversation, but the locker room in LA this season, Paul George, Kawhi, they were treated differently, apparently. It's been pretty loud. There's been a lot of stories written about how they were treated differently, how, others on the team feel like Kawhi and Paul George, maybe they get a pass. They can do whatever they want. Welcome to the NBA. Welcome to the NBA. But some might look at that and go, I don't want that to happen to Ben Simmons or Joel Embiid. I want someone to demand them to do this, demand them to do that, accountability, this and that. Doc Rivers, who is very respected, is mixed in with the same story as, hey, some of these NBA stars are getting what they want. They're making the rules. They're an exception to the rule. I hate to break it to you, but that's how the league works. I know it shouldn't be that way. I know it's not fun for it to be that way, but it is that way. Disciplining these guys, it's different. They are the top dogs. They are the one making all the money, and they are the ones that got to go out there and execute. That's why I put the blame on them more so than anybody else involved. Unless we're talking about the ownership who makes horrendous decisions. That's two totally different conversations, though. Executing in an NBA playoff game and, what the upper management and ownership group brings to the table. Both can be ripped apart in different ways. Now, listening to this, you would think that, I bring up some negative points on Doc Rivers. But once again, that's just because this team is going to be successful when these players step up, and Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid. And I'm going to add the element of the ownership group when they make the proper decisions. I am really, really devastated with what I've heard about what's going on within this organization, and I think it does start from the top. But from a standpoint of, what you're getting on the product of the court, I know the analytic team, it got super heavy. It got way too involved. They were way too invested in analytics where they used it as the Bible, and that kind of hurt what they were doing on the court. Like, I understand that there is a snowball effect, a domino effect that does relate to what happens on the court, and I don't think that this team is going anywhere when these ownership pieces are making the decisions that they're making. But still, from a skill standpoint, I don't think this team is going anywhere until the talent on the team is what steps up, and the young players that we are putting a lot of faith into taking those steps actually take those steps. So it might seem like I'm ripping Doc Rivers. I think he's the perfect kind of guy. He's the kind of guy that you're looking for when it comes to the role of an NBA head coach. He's had success in this league. He's got a good record. Although you can look at the 3-1 stuff, his voice carries differently than D'Antoni does, than Ty Lue does. Although I'm not going to hate on Ty Lue. I think that is a fine way to go down. But with Doc Rivers available, I think that's the guy that you should try and snag because it makes the most sense to me. When he speaks, people listen differently. It's a little different from the scenario I'm about to give you, but when Kobe Bryant speaks, when he speaks, Brian Dawkins speaks. When they speak, and of course, rest in peace, Kobe Bryant. Oh, it's crushing. It really is. Every time I think about him, every time I see him, it's like it doesn't feel real. I remember I left my house that day. I was in such shock. I left my house just to get some fresh air, and I was bawling my damn eyes out in the middle of a parking lot, parked. I didn't know the guy. I didn't know Kobe Bryant, but that's the type of legacy he had on us that we appreciated. But getting back to my point of the way that they speak, when they speak, it's different. You focus differently, right? Like, your intensity is different from just wanting to hear them. What they're saying is so important. It's so valuable. And with Doc and what he has been through and his tenure and how many games he has under his belt and what he has done as a player and what has he done as a coach, like all of that combined together, the longevity of who he has been throughout his career and who he has coached, all the outstanding players that he has played with and he has coached. I think his voice will carry a different way, the way that you need a coach's voice to carry. So I'm all in on the Doc Rivers train. I think that's the way that this organization should go, and it's not just about the name. I actually heard someone counter the Doc Rivers thing, the Ty Lue thing, the D'Antoni thing with, go get yourself a nickname. Why can't you find the next Eric Spoelstra? Why can't you find the next Greg Popovich? Why do you have to get some of these recycled guys? And that's fair. That's fair. There is somebody out there. There's got to be somebody out there, right? At some point, Eric Spoelstra wasn't a head coach. At some point, Brad Stevens wasn't an NBA coach. Now, he had success at Butler, but, look, Brad Stevens, he got outcoached by Eric Spoelstra. If you want to use the word outcoached, I would say that the Miami Heat just played better than the Boston Celtics. It's funny. Let me bring this up. Of course I'm going to bring this up. The Boston Celtics struggled with the zone big time. Big time. But I was informed Brett Brown was the only NBA coach who couldn't figure out a zone. You know what fixes beating a zone? Making your shots. It's that simple. Make your shots because you're going to have open looks. But the Celtics weren't making their shots. So was Brad Stevens, who I'm told is this fantastic coach, right? I think he's a good coach. But my point is he struggled insanely against the zone. Brett Brown struggled insanely against a zone. Okay, one coach is viewed as the worst coach in NBA history, and the other is what? Viewed as a great coach by the same people? Please explain that to me. And that's when you go, okay, so who could shoot on the Sixers? Oh, wait, that's right. And then who put this team together? Oh, wait, that's right. The ownership. The ownership made some big-time decisions when it came to that roster. Hate to break it to you. Well, Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Gordon Hayward, different crew over there in Boston. They were missing their shots. And it's just as simple as if they start hitting their shots, well, then Brad Stevens looks like a genius and he can beat the zone. Oh, the NBA coach situation and conversation. It's not going anywhere with me, and I'm here for it, That's all. So moral of the story is, after all of this, I like Doc Rivers. I think for what he can bring to the table and for what an NBA head coach can bring to the table, that's the type of role, after having Brett Brown, that should be able to solidify a positive spin on this team. How about that? You like that? Before we head out of here, this episode of Sports Talk with Broads is sponsored by Orbit Energy and Power. And with over 20 years of experience in the industry, Orbit is home to your solar experts in residential and commercial projects. Not only do they provide solar, they also provide water purification systems, backup energy services, battery storage, and more. Their information is down below. Thank you all so much for listening, and I will see you next time.